Hey, what's up, everybody? You're watching Radio Space number 38, and I have on today's show my good friend, Karla. Karla, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you again for being on the show here. I think last time we said that the last time you were on was, I think, 2018, somewhere around there.
I think it was like 2017, actually.
It's
Yes.
been a while. It's been a
Yeah.
while. I'm so glad you're here. 3 years since the last time you've been on, so a lot has happened in 3 years,
Yes.
especially 2020. And I just wanted to catch up, see how you're doing. And for those who don't know or haven't seen that episode, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Maybe start about, I think in 2017 you said you were finishing up college, and then what has been going on since then?
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. First of all, this is really fun. So last time we talked, I was probably a sophomore, junior in college at Houston Baptist University. So that year, I was wrapping up my first internship in Washington, D.C. On the Hill for Speaker Paul Ryan. And so I really enjoyed that, and that kind of ignited my passion for wanting to pursue a career in government and politics. And so I came back. I finished college in 2018. In between that, I went back to DC and did another internship. And again, it was just fueling my desire more and more to wanting to go to DC. So I prayed about it a lot. And when I graduated in 2018, I moved to DC, got an apartment, got a job for a member of Congress. That was a wonderful and crazy and hectic experience, but I really enjoyed it. And it was, a time of my life that I am so thankful for that I got to experience. But ultimately, I wanted to come back home to Texas. So I came back late last year, and now I am working still in government for the Texas General Land Office. They're one of the oldest, probably the oldest government agencies here in Texas. So I'm back in Houston doing that, and I really enjoy it.
That's cool. That's cool. So it was really exciting when you told me that you were working at the house under Paul Ryan, and then your dream came true as far as you were studying in communications with us. You said focus on political journalism. Is that correct?
Political
And then
science.
political science, and that's something you've been interested in. And then that passion grew, as you said, and now you're working for, was it Texas Land? How do you say it again?
Yeah, the Texas General Land Office.
Texas General Land Office. So I know there's been the transition as far as going from Texas to DC and now back to Texas, and then working in the House and now where you're at. What has that transition been like for you during this time, especially with 2020?
It's been just what I needed, to be honest. I really enjoyed being in DC, and it was something that I was praying about a lot, and I decided to do, and it was a great experience. But ultimately, I felt like God was calling me back home for a multitude of reasons. But it was a little hard coming back because I had kind of withdrawals, and I really missed being in DC and living on my own. So then I'm coming back home and living with my parents, and trying to find the next career step for me on the local government level. And so there was a season where I couldn't, really find what I wanted to do here or what I could do. So it was a really hard kind of time in my life leading into this year where my future was really uncertain in that sense. And then the virus pandemic started. And so it just adds another layer to everything, to all the stress. And it took a lot of faith and a lot of prayer and asking God what the next step was. And earlier this year, I got a job at the agency that I'm at now. I'm so thankful for it, but it's definitely been like a roller coaster to get back here and back home and in a place that I'm really content.
So what would you say is one of the main takeaways, or a few of the top takeaways you got in working in DC at the federal level, where where the heart of all of it is? What's one of the takeaways that you got from their lessons?
The biggest thing that I feel like I kind of walked away with, and I think we kind of talked about it in the last podcast, is to kind of just remain true to who you are, because the life in DC and the life in politics is can be very nasty, I think, as we all know, especially now. And it's very easy to get lost in who you are and what your purpose is. I'm
Mm-hmm.
someone who went into government because I love the excitement of it, but I also have a heart for public service and wanting to make a change and, putting myself in a career where I feel like I can play a very small part in bringing change in what I believe in. So during my time there were some rocky parts and people that you would be surrounded with or environments that you would be surrounded with where it's very easy to forget your purpose and why you're there. And I would say that's the biggest lesson that I had walked away with is remaining true to my purpose, what I believe God called me to do, and just kind of not feeding into all the distractions and side things that want to pull you into this way of life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's so good. And the one of the struggles for Christians in general is, like you said, just to remain faithful with wherever you're at, whatever industry or field it may be. But even more so, I mean, considering how I mean, just use lack of better words, dirty politics can get sometimes, and just to come in, to go in clean and to come out clean as best as you can, and even staying faithful to God. That's so good. So you said you were at the in DC federal level, and now you're here at the local level. What is it that you do as far as in the agency, and then how is it that you're living your faith out there, and where you're at right now?
Yeah. So there's a lot of little specific departments within the agency that I kind of fall into. So the overall kind of branch that I'm in is the Community Development and Revitalization Program, which covers a lot of stuff. Mainly disaster recovery is the biggest kind of branch we're in. So I work in disaster recovery, but within that, I work in the Government Relations and Communications Department. So being in Houston, the biggest kind of project and focus that we have is still Hurricane Harvey recovery. There's kind of billions of dollars into that program that the agency uses to help people rebuild, repair, still from the storm, and kind of move forward. And so I work in that area doing outreach to those people, to government officials, and just trying to get the word out about what the agency can do to help some of these Hurricane Harvey survivors and other natural disaster survivors move forward.
That's good. How has the your degree in communications played a role in the position that you have right now?
Oh, it's played a really big role. The biggest, I think, takeaway that I got from college and from that degree was writing. And my professors always told me, if you can write, you can do any job well. And I really believe that, and I enjoy writing. And so it's something that I feel like I do pretty okay at. So I use that to communicate with people of the public who don't really know all the technical lingo of government. So I have to be able to write in a way that's easy for other people to understand and very clear and concisely. And also just working with, talking with government officials all the time, you have to be really good at the way you communicate, both verbally and written and through newsletters and other outreach and media. So yeah, my degree has really come in handy in every job I've had, but a lot in this role.
That's good. So you said you get the technical jargon of whatever the agency has, and then you're pretty much like translating it into everyday vernacular, and then just helping be that bridge of communication for the general public.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that, and a little bit of just kind of being a voice kind of for the agency on what we do for people. Yeah.
Okay. So percentage wise, are you dealing more with the general public or with officials?
Mostly with other officials, because I am in government relations. So it's working with other city council members, local state senators, stuff like that, and people that work for them. So it's mostly in government relations with other government officials.
Okay. And you said the main thing right now has been Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, there's always that delay. So when I ask a question or you're answering, I'm sorry about that. I was going to ask or say Hurricane Harvey was in 2016, and that's something that Houston or even the surrounding areas are still working with, right?
Yeah. It's that's something that I was shocked to find out coming on aboard, to know that still so many years after Hurricane Harvey, there's people who, still don't have a home, who
Oh,
still are out of a house, living in a hotel, or barely making it by. And so it's really impacted me to see kind of the conditions that some people are living in and still suffering through. And so, yeah, a good chunk of what we do is focused on that and helping these people move forward from that.
well, so right now we're in here in the States. We have an election coming up, presidential election. At the local level, it's not every 4 years. It's usually every 2 years. How
Mhm.
much of the elections, the local elections or federal election, play a part in moving forward with whatever programs y'all have going on? I mean, you said people are still suffering from Hurricane Harvey. Um, yeah, just let's say the the presidency goes to a different goes to Biden instead of Trump, and then usually at the local level there's a trickle down of it reflecting that at the presidential level. Does that affect what y'all do at all as far as a change of heads of those in command, or as far as financing or anything like that?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's If it does change anything, it's going to come down to money. That's
Okay.
what a lot of stuff, and I think politics comes down to. Um, right now, like specifically the Hurricane Harvey program, there's a lot of money allocated to that. And to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I'm not sure what would happen if the administration changes, because right now we're under a certain administration that has approved this money.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I'm not even
Okay.
sure what would happen if it would change. My instinct is that, or what I believe is, I don't think what's set in stone right now could be taken away, because it's already kind of
Yeah.
been given.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. It's an approved budget, so
Mhm.
that would make sense. That's something that's always interests me since I forgot who told me that there's so much emphasis in the media as far as with the presidential election, which is obviously very important, but that so many people disregard what's going on in their local government, which affects
Mhm.
them from a day to day life. I know right now you're working primarily, as you said, with Hurricane Harvey and relief with disasters and everything else. But from a general, just political perspective and what you've studied, and then what you've experienced, what advice can you give to fellow believers as far as how to look at politics through a Christian worldview?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, I feel like you have to look at politics through a political worldview, because it
Mhm.
shapes so much of our life, and I don't want to get too political or tell people how
Mhm.
to vote or anything like that. But for me
Yeah.
as a Christian, I know what my Christian faith tells me and what I grew up, and what my
Mhm.
morals are that are so deeply grounded in my religion. And that's so much a part of me that I have to take that into consideration when I'm looking at a candidate or looking at an issue. And to me, it's, I have to rely on that. I have to look at what the Bible says about certain topics. And, the Bible's not going to mention this, this should be your view on immigration, or this should be your view on healthcare. But, you have to make the best choice
Mhm.
depending on your beliefs. And my belief is deeply rooted in the Bible and what God says, and because of that, I have to let it impact my politics and the people I support. And you're not always going to agree 100%, I think, with anyone.
Mhm.
But I do feel like God calls certain people into power, into position and leadership, and He can use those people for His purpose. And so, I definitely think that those two things are not mutually exclusive. As a Christian, um, you should combine those two worlds.
That's good. That's good. I love that you said that. We're not always going to agree 100% with whoever the candidate is. And
Mhm.
one thing that I can't remember who told me, that when it comes to electing officials, that we are, in this case, let's just talk about the president, that we're electing a president, not a messiah. So we're not looking
Mhm.
for perfection. But like you said, necessarily don't vote for the person, but vote for the positions or the policies that they hold, which is good advice to understand where you are. And if you don't have a solid foundation as to what you believe or what your values are, then you're just going to go, I guess, with a popular vote, like it's
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a beauty pageant or something. What considering that we don't always agree with 100% with the candidates, that goes, I think, in general with, let's just say, work life, that you might have a boss that you don't agree with 100% of something all the time. Aside from them asking you to do something unethical or immoral, um, how do you navigate working with someone in the political arena that you may not agree with 100%, but still wanting to honor them, honor the position, and then honor your faith? How have you, if you ever encountered that, and how have you navigated that?
Yeah, that's actually a good question because it actually is something that I've encountered, sadly. And I don't want to and can't and probably get in a lot of trouble if I went into specifics, but it's definitely come up um, where not that I've been asked to do something, but I've been surrounded by bosses or people or coworkers who their chatter and their mannerisms and the way they speak about the work that they do is not exactly ethical, I would say, and not something that you kind of like think like, I didn't elect you, put you into positions so you could talk like that or act like that. Or if I would have known that this was your actual beliefs on this, I probably would have not voted you in. And so I have kind of encountered that. And to me, it's something that I've removed myself from if I've been in. I mean, I've gone as far as to leave a job when it got too bad, when it got too much, something that I just felt like I couldn't be associated with.
Yeah.
And, you know, just to give you an example, not without getting into specific into it, but I was in DC last year and I was at this new job, and this happened outside of the workplace. It was at an after work event, and there was a lot of people from DC on the Hill at this event, and it was turning into like a nightclub scene, honestly, like partying, heavy drinking, and just a lot of commotion. And someone came up to me and said, you know, I was visibly uncomfortable and wanted to leave, and someone said, you know, if you want to be a part of DC life, you're going to have to get used to this life. And yeah, and I think they knew I was a Christian. They said, oh, just because you're a good Christian Baptist, you're not going to participate. And I was just shocked because I'm like, I could not believe someone would be that blunt with me. But yeah, that was one situation where, again, I just walked away and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to be a part of this culture and society. And it was a constant battle kind of because you would go out and hear stories and you'd be with your coworkers or with other people that worked on the Hill, and you hear these stories and you're like, I don't know how you guys can be a part of all that, you know? And to me, yeah, I would remove myself from situations like that. And I have, and I probably will in the future, because to me, it's not worth, you know, my relationship with God or my faith to compromise it by being in those situations.
It's interesting. What you said reflects a conversation that I heard on a different podcast, where two gentlemen that had raised into the ranks a certain level of government, they talked about that, similar to what you just said, that you'll have people of integrity, as you already stated, that will get so far along into politics or government, and there comes a point to where they just don't want to be a part of it anymore. Because of similar circumstances. So they step back so that they can come out clean. And it's, according to these two gentlemen, they were saying that pretty much when that happens, you get so many people, outstanding people of integrity, that leave, that you just get left with a bunch of other people that are there for other selfish reasons or whatever it may be. And that's not to generalize every politician, but I think it speaks more to the fact that those who are in politics at any level that stay in there and are people of integrity, how difficult it is for them, not only as far as being to maintain character, but to combat the slander that may come their way. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. It's good. So in that thread of integrity, um, you said you encountered a situation to where someone's character was just shifted. Your perspective on an individual was shifted. What can you say as far as to the topic of integrity and what that means to you and anyone that has been in that situation? What advice you can give to them?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, I feel like you can't separate your,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Christian life or your faith from what you do. And that's for anything, for relationships, friendships, but, work is so much of our life. I mean, you spend more time at work than you do at home, pretty much, when you think about it. And to me, it's showing integrity when I'm at work, just because I'm not at church and there's no church friends around me. Nobody's going to know what I'm saying or participating in. Because I think we've all been there. You've probably been there where you've been at work and there's someone next to you saying something that, and trying to get you to jump in on it, on, inappropriate talk or stuff that as Christians we don't participate in. And I mean, it's up to you in that point to show integrity and to show that just because no one's here watching, I still need to do the right thing as a Christian and show this person that you are different, and someone should look at us at work and know that we are different and stand out because we are Christians. And it's hard. It's really hard to do in today's world. Like, I get that, especially for young people. You're just so tempted to want to fit in with the crowd and be cool and, make friends, and you don't want people to dislike you for being uncool. But to that I say, so what? We're not here to please, the people next to us, and so it's definitely easier said than done. But I think if you are firm in your faith and your beliefs and convictions, then it should be second nature. You should want to be that light and difference when you are in a room with other people, and especially non-believers.
That's so good. One of the traits or tenets of our faith is love. Jesus himself said that they will know you by your love. And we're here in the States, we're in a very unloving season with the presidential campaign at its height. In a few weeks, in a few days, we're going to be voting on whether or not we have the same president or we have a new president. And tensions are built, whether it be face to face or definitely on social media. So how have you maintained integrity and then displaying and living out the love of our faith in this situation with such high tensions across the aisle?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I'm too young to have lived through many, many elections, but I can't imagine there ever being a time where things are so heated as they are now, at least in my lifetime, that I've been active in politics. And it's sad and it's discouraging, I think, for a lot of people, because there's just so much hate on both sides, at certain points. And it's just so easy to want to show hate and say nasty words and nasty preconceived notions about other people. But like I said, as Christians, we are called to, show love and to show understanding, even when it's hard. I mean, we should show love to our enemies and to people who believe differently than us. It's our job as Christians to do that. And I think I was telling you before, like, my best friend is a Democrat. We don't agree on a lot of stuff. And in today's day and age, like, you don't see that. A lot of people can't be friends with a Democrat. If you're a Republican, it's just like, I'm going to delete you off of Facebook. And people do that to me all the time. If they find out I'm certain party, they'll delete me or block me or whatever. And I'm like, if you knew that my bestest friends, the best people that I have the best times with think like you, and they think totally different from me, you wouldn't have these preconceived notions. I'm someone who's very understanding in a lot of circumstances. And that's the biggest thing that's why I feel like I can have friendships with other people from the other side, is because at the end of the day, I show love and compassion and try to, I like to talk about differences in my political beliefs with someone else, because it challenges my thinking and it hopefully challenges them. And it's hard to do. I feel like the easy way out for a lot of people now is to just not even going to talk about it. I don't want to hear what the other side has to say, but I feel like you have to show love, you have to show compassion, and it's totally possible to maintain friendships and relationships with other people despite your differences. I don't know where this like sharp unity came from, where it's just like you're on this side, I'm on this side, and we're not going to associate. I feel like now more than ever, we really are called to be united in so many ways, and to, love the other person for who they are, because God made them, and even though they think differently from you, that doesn't make them an evil person. We're still called to love those people and to hopefully have healthy relationships with them also.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Like, just how it's crazy times. There's always been some kind of tension across the aisle, but even more so. I can't remember who it was I was listening to. They were talking about Anthony Scalia, and then Ruth. Is it Ruth Gate? How do you say her last name?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
There you go. I always get the last name. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They were talking about you have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was far left, and then Anthony Scalia, who was far right. But it turns out that they were the best of friends, and apparently their families got together all the time. But the media would not show this because it's like the mirage of professional wrestling, where they're enemies on TV, but they're in the background, hanging out. They're considering that you study communication, and you understand more than most people how important it is not only what you say, but how you said it, as you said earlier. What is something that you would like to see from mainstream media as far as taking on the responsibility they have of presenting the facts? And there's been a sense of a lack of decorum lately, especially with debates. What is something that you want to see from mainstream media as well as from politicians as far as keeping a level of professional decorum?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just all around there's just been this sense of professionalism that's out the window, for journalists, reporters, and that's on both sides. I mean, sometimes I log on to Twitter and I follow a lot of reporters and I on both sides and see what they say, and it's like there's no sense of respect anymore, no sense of honesty in journalism. You're supposed to be unbiased and you're supposed to report the facts like you see them, and that's what the people deserve, the people consuming this media deserve. And I feel like all of that's just lost. There's no more professionalism in that world, and I want to see more of that, and I want to see these people be held accountable for it. And like I said, this is on both sides, because I watch CNN, Fox News, I watch everything, and I've always liked doing that because I like to hear what the other side is saying and how they're presenting it. And if you ever just like switch back and forth during like a big topic going on, like just the subject line is completely different based on like what station you're on. And I don't like that. I like, I want it to be more, this is the facts, this is the news, and people deserve to make their own decisions, and, it's up to us as consumers of the media to interpret it how we want to, but it's the media's job to report facts and not be biased. And there are some stations and some, outlets that are supposed to be very biased, but even then I feel like they do too much of their own editing and their own, narrative. And so, even from politicians, like I said, there's just no sense of transparency with a lot of them. And the way that they speak, or the way they present, their speeches or whatever, you have to wonder if it's really grounded in a lot of facts. And it's up to us, again, as consumers, to double check that, is what they're saying, is that correct? Is that, does that line up with, actual facts? So I feel like it's also a lot of the consumer's job to be responsible in what you read and consume, and verifying all of that, and don't, just see the headline and run with it, because oftentimes there's much more to it than the edited headline, so that's always really frustrating. And just in this last election, I feel like it's ramped up even more, and it's kind of sad and scary, to be honest. But it's just kind of the world we've lived in, and media is a business at the end of the day, also. So people are going to do whatever gives them, attention.
Yeah, wherever the attention is. That's one thing that was a paradigm shift for me when I realized years ago that, as you said, media is a business, that it's not a free service necessarily, that the currency that they run in is attention, but it's they're a business that they have to make money, and they have to, especially now that we have a 24-hour news cycle. So it's whoever is paying them, which is their commercial sponsors. I've noticed the exact same thing. As you said, I'm not so old that I've been through too many political cycles. I think three presidential campaigns since I've started actually paying attention. And you're right, there has been a level of tension that there wasn't in the other two. And what you said is good advice, to have a balanced portion of both sides. If you are on the left, then hey, take some time to find out what's going on the right. If you are on the right, take some time to find out what's going on the left, or take some time to find out what's going on in third party option, or whatever it may be. And it's sad, and then to some degree comical as far as what's going on. Like, you have to just step back. Like, is this really going on, or am I in some kind of nightmarish dream or whatever? Because politics has become such a circus lately, I bring up The Fly that happened at the debate.
The star of the show.
The star of the show. Like, who won? It was The Fly. There was so much more commentary on this fly than the policies, which was interesting. I think there was a meme that came out after that, as far as memes go, where it was a cartoon of a news reporter interviewing the fly. So it's that. I mean, even now we're talking about the fly, but when that happened, I was purposely watching on a broadcast that is contrary to where I'm at as far as policy, just because, like you said, I want to get different perspective. And I thought it was interesting how they were reporting on the fly and saying how it had never happened before. And I was thinking, this happened 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It happened 4 years ago. It just happened to somebody on the other side. And I thought that was interesting. I was talking to my wife about that, into what you said as well, that you have generations that come into politics that don't know what happened. Now they only just 4 years ago. And there's everything happens in a cycle. I was listening to I think his name is Ray Dalio, and he was talking about economics and the cycle of economics and how things ebb and flow, and where we're at right now economically here in the United States. And he said that one of the issues is that you get generations to come in and they don't know what happened before them in previous generations. They don't take the time to do the research. They'll just take whatever is being spoon-fed to them. What has been in that, thinking about generations? Your dad, he's a smart, wise man. You have an amazing family. What is some of the advice that you've gotten from him and your mom and your older siblings that you can glean from, as far as them having gone through not only just political cycles, but just where you're at in life? What are some of the key points that you've taken away from them, from the older generation?
Are you asking more like political wise? Like,
yeah. Well, let's right now, since we're talking about politics, and then just we can go into general advice that you've gotten from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's parents tells them stories of oh, I love this president because of this reason and what he was able to do for me or our family or whatever, or my dad's case is business. And so growing up, my family's always been very interested in politics and staying informed in it. And so growing up, they never told me like, this is the political party you're going to be, but based on their stories and conversations and just hearing them speak so passionately about one side or the other, has, shaped the way I see politics, also, and beliefs I have. And I think the biggest, again, thing that they've always instilled in me is, everything you do, kind of like what we were talking about, everything you do in life has to and should be rooted in your faith. And so for my parents, that's a big, factor in how they vote, if not the biggest factor in how they vote. And so their advice has always been to me, they're not going to tell me who to vote or how to vote, but that should be a factor for me too. And I think that's what God wants for us also, because, if they're only president for 4 or 8 years, but the decisions they make affect a lifetime and affect my children one day. And I want to make sure that, my future is set up for success, and not just financially, but, spiritually, and just in the world that we live in. I want to grow up in a world that is somewhat moral, has as much as it can be, but has a Christian kind of backing to it as much as possible as it is. But that's something that they've always instilled in me, and made sure that in anything I do, that's the focus of it. And so it's definitely played a role in how I am today politically.
That's good. What advice? I mean, like you mentioned, your dad is an entrepreneur. He's an amazing entrepreneur. Has started from what I know, every business he's ever started has been extremely successful. What is some advice that he has given you, and from what he's learned, or what you've seen him do as far as being an entrepreneur? And a successful entrepreneur is someone that leads through teams and building teams. So what's some advice or again actions that you've seen him take that you've learned from him in that area?
Yeah, I think, my dad, just from what I've always seen and from the conversations we've had, is he takes pride in the leader that he is, and wants to have an involved relationship with the people around him, whether it's business, or like it's another person he's trying to do business with, or his employees. He's very involved in those relationships, and he prides himself in being a respectful leader, someone that they can look up to and go to, because nobody wants to work for someone who's criticizing or awful to work with. It just doesn't make for a good environment. So, even just hearing some of my dad's employees, how they talk about him, and the people that he interacts with, how they talk about him, I know that he's a great person to work for, and he's instilled that in me. And whatever you do with the people you work for, you want to, make sure you're someone that people want to be around, because, like I said, he wants to go to work with someone who's grouchy and yelling and cussing all the time. And I just feel like my dad is so deeply involved in all his relationships with his employees and his colleagues and stuff like that. He's someone who shows respect to others. I think that's also the other biggest thing is just because he's in a slightly higher position, he never sees anyone below him disrespectfully. And he's taught that to me also, is to have respect for other people, because if you give respect, then you also get it back. So yeah, I could go on and on about my dad. I feel like he's the best person in the world, but yeah,
he's an amazing guy. I had a conversation with Armando, and is when he was working in the waste services that your dad owned, and he said that he was amazed to see your dad, the owner of the company, pulling out the trash cans and putting up the trash cans with the team. That he like you said, there's that level of respect, and then the team would respect him as well. That he would take some time whenever the team needed help to come and help them to put the trash can out and put it back, and to serve not only his customers in that way to make sure deadlines were met, but to serve his team and not just leave them hanging. That unfortunately sometimes we have leaders that will not leave their high office or corner office to come down and help whenever what's needed. So that's such a good example, and we see how well of a leader he is in you, and being a person of character and integrity, and then all of your brothers and sisters. It's an amazing family. So here's a question: we need more people like you in the Oval Office. So when are you running for president?
Well, this is actually the time that I was going to announce that. And I was going to ask you to be my running mate.
No, there we go. So have you heard? Well, this wouldn't apply if you and I ran together. There's I guess a campaign called, I think it's called the Dark Horse Project.
Oh my gosh,
No?
I think I've heard of it.
So there's this pretty famous. I think he's a physicist. No, his brother's a physicist. This guy is a biologist. His name is Brett Weinstein, and he's trying to propose this thing called the Dark Horse campaign. Pretty much the idea is to have someone center left and someone center right be on the same ticket. So you have a liberal and a conservative run together, so that there's a balanced perspective. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's going to get any traction considering where we're at, but the project would be that you have a center left, center right running together, and then one would be president for 4 years, the other one vice president, and they would agree the next term to switch. So instead of having 8 years, you end up having 16 years of the same administration, essentially. It's an interesting concept. I don't know if it would happen. Not likely, but it's interesting to see. You mentioned that your best friend is a Democrat. What was that's, and you were raised, obviously, if your best friend's a Democrat, you're raised, like you said, not necessarily to be a Republican, but because your family has those leanings and those perspectives. What was it like when you realized, oh, there's other people out there that don't think the way I think? And how did you respond to that? And how has that grown as far as interacting with those people?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, honestly, thinking back, I remember in high school and no one ever talking about politics. And now I see high schoolers and which I think is great, but they're deeply involved and have an opinion and a voice, which is great. But I remember growing up in college, you just didn't even talk about that at all. Well, and as I got into college, things, you pay more attention, and obviously what my focus was. But yeah, I mean, in high school, I knew where I stood, and even middle school, I knew where I stood, and as much as I could understand. But it's something that I kind of kept to myself because it almost seemed like not appropriate or rude to ask someone else, I feel, what their political stance was. But now that I'm older, especially when I've gone to college and in the world that I work in, yeah, you definitely, you meet other people who don't think the same way as you do. And sometimes it's kind of hard to imagine, I remember being younger maybe and thinking that's not how could you think that? That's not what my parents told me, or that's not what my parents say that this is the way, so that must be right. But I remember, I think mostly being in college and some of the classes I took, especially in political science, and hearing other people's thinking and thinking, wow, I think 100% differently on this topic. How did you even get there? But again, it's about having respect and knowing that God made us all different. And there's people who were raised differently than I was. Their parents taught them differently, which is okay. I think there needs to be, differences. It would be really boring if we were all the same. But yeah, it was mostly in college where I think I realized that, okay, there's definitely more out there than what I feel or what I've been raised to believe. And like I said, I'm someone who's very open to having relationships with other people of different beliefs. I have found a lot of people where that's not the case. And like I said, people will stop talking to me when they find out how I am and label me a certain way. And I just think it's sad because if you knew me, you knew that that's not my heart and my intention. And so that's the biggest, kind of fear that I have going forward is, I don't want there to be more division and more divisiveness. And I want, my kids to grow up in a world where there's respect, mutual respect between them and their peers who are going to be, different from them or think differently from them, and whatever that may be. So I think it's definitely tricky, especially now, but I feel like the best solution for us to go forward is to be able to take a step back and be able to listen to a person. Don't criticize them, don't judge them, don't shun them, but just to be able to listen. And if you can't understand it, you can't fathom how they would think that, then that's okay. But you don't have to rupture those relationships or how you see that person because of it.
That's so good. I'm glad you said that. Being open-minded and then being open to having friends that are not only of different political beliefs, but just maybe religious beliefs or core beliefs. So there's a belief that you and I hold that is totally contrast to each other.
Bring it on.
You for some reason like In-N-Out for whatever reason. So since politics is all about debating, I'm going to give you 2 minutes of uninterrupted time for you to talk about why In-N-Out is better than Whataburger.
Okay. Here's my thing with burgers. Okay, I'm not even the biggest burger fan, but if I'm going to go somewhere, it's going to be In-N-Out. I just don't like getting a burger that's flat. Like, a burger should not be flat. And anytime I've gone to Whataburger, I've gotten burgers that are flat and soggy, and the bun is not soft and cushiony. Like, the lettuce is flat and dry. The tomatoes are not, anytime I've gone to In-N-Out, and you can Google an image now, what you see on the ad is what you get. It's thick and it's juicy and it's given to you in a nice presentation. And I've never had a soggy bun. I've never had a flat burger. It's just the freshest experience I've ever had. And I'm very passionate about this. And I don't know why people hate it, because every time I drive by In-N-Out, there's lines down the street. So there's definitely some haters out there that are enjoying In-N-Out and don't want to be vocal about it. So that's where my problem is. But I don't see the obsession with Whataburger. It's decent. I don't hate it, but it's like, if I have to choose anywhere to go, it's going to be In-N-Out. And they have great shakes and better fries, in my opinion.
Don't they have some kind of like special sauce, like monster sauce? Or
yeah, they have special sauce. Like, Whataburger has spicy ketchup, and I don't even like spicy food. So that's all they have going for them.
Well, we can find common ground there. We're two Hispanics that don't like spicy food.
So. Oh, really? I've never met another one.
That's like when people find out that I don't like to put jalapenos in my whatever I'm eating, and they're like, "Are you sure? Like, did you forget to put jalapenos in there?" Like, I just don't put jalapenos in there.
Yeah, no. My boyfriend loves spicy food, and he tries to get me to, like, I can't even have like a drop of Tabasco or like a hot Cheeto, and he can stuff jalapenos in his mouth, and I can't. I'm really repulsed by it.
Whenever I go grab tacos for breakfast on the weekends for the family, I always forget the salsa. Of course, because you
don't think about it.
I don't grab salsa when I get tacos, and my wife, she's like, "Where's the salsa?" I was like, "Oh, I forgot the salsa. I'm sorry."
I didn't know that about you. That's cool. I'm glad we can agree on that.
We may disagree on burgers. We're on two different sides of the aisle when it comes to burgers, but I'm glad we can find common ground on salsa. And that's what it's all about.
Yes.
So we'll say no on our ticket. We'll say no to salsa, and then we'll split the country between In-N-Out and
yeah. Burger. If you like In-N-Out, you can live over there. If you like Whataburger, you can stay over here.
In all fairness, the only time I have ever had In-N-Out was where was I at? I think I was at Baylor. They had just opened an In-N-Out down the street, and it was their opening weekend, so it was packed, and the service was pretty slow, so it wasn't the greatest experience. But I would imagine it's because the burger, I think, came out kind of cold, and the fries weren't pristine. So I will maybe give In-N-Out another chance.
You've only been there once, and you have this.
That is all it takes. I had one bad experience at Wendy's, and it was like it was 10 years ago. It was 10 years after that until I tried them again.
Yeah, Wendy. We're not even going to talk about Wendy's. They're not even in this conversation. But you need to try it again.
What is there one here in Houston? Or there's
two. There's one in like Katy area, and there's one in Stafford, right on 59 in Kirkwood, I think.
Oh. I'll have to go over there and try one out. Wendy's may not have the same degree of excellence as the other ones, but they do have a mean baconator. There's a lot of bacon in there.
I've heard that's good.
And one thing, just from a marketing communications perspective, they have an excellent Twitter account.
They do. They actually do.
And how well they handle their account. That's awesome. So whoever's running the Wendy's Twitter account, kudos to you. You're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, they're funny.
We need more people like you in politics. So there.
Yes.
Well, Karla, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad just for you to be here, for us to finally hash that out between Whataburger and In-N-Out, and I will try them. I will try them out for the sake of our country and stability. I will try out In-N-Out one more time. I'll take a picture and I'll send it over to you.
It's all on you right now.
There you go. The fate of our nation rests on whether or not we can come to an agreement on what burger we like.
Exactly.
Well, thanks again. I hope to have you on soon. These are great conversations. I just love to hear your perspective on all things, and then your passion about politics, and then the integrity and character that you bring to it. I'm just glad that there are people like you that are in politics that are just being that light in such an area that for some reason has so much darkness. But thank you again for that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is really fun. Just like last time, I always admire all the creative stuff that you do. So it's been really fun. And I love seeing all the stuff that you do all the time. So I'm really excited to play a tiny part in it.
Thank you. God bless you. The ministry God has given you and your family. Thank you so much, Karla.
God bless you too. Bye.
Bye.